This episode is brought to you by Rad Dudes Who Love Nature.
The best part was watching the kids come up. You know, we let, it was funny because we're sitting there, you know, we're letting the kids, you know, touch and pet and everything. And, you know, the drug's starting to wear off a little bit. And he's kind of, and we're like, well, we need to end this right now. You know.
You are listening to Urban Wildlife Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Urban Wildlife Podcast. This is one of your co-hosts, William Crosdale,
with your other co-host, William Brown.
and we have a guest with us.
Brad Gates.
So this is I guess the general theme for this episode is quests or things we wanted to see in our city finally realized in two different stories. And my side of the story is how we met Brad. So we will get there in a second. So I guess we'll start with the general.
The black theme.
Yeah. The theme. There's also black as part of it as well.
There are black albums. Black
Yeah.
podcast.
This is the black episode. And always please rate us highly on your favorite podcasting medium. And give us a nice rating and maybe, give us a review would be lovely. Please email and tweet us at
You can email us at
UrbWildlifeCast.
tweet us at UrbWildlifeCast and email us at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com and hit us up on Facebook.
Alrighty.
We're always looking for ideas.
So we're back this is episode 2 in the studio. In the Robeson Library, aka Urban Wildlife Podcast studio.
It still feels so official.
I haven't heard any official feedback, but I did listen to our episode, and I do think the sound quality is dramatically improved. Although the last episode was recorded in the field, although I thought it sounded pretty good as well.
Yeah, and I think that one, that was the London Plane Tree episode, where I grudgingly gained a little bit more respect for London plane trees and the role in the city. I admit that I am still more of a fan of lots of other kinds of trees, I'll put it that way. I've always considered London plane trees to be kind of the default tree in Philadelphia in a way that's kind of unoriginal, but learning more about the history of why that came to be was interesting. I think I'll watch them more closely. There's a question of bias that comes in here because when we learned that the highest value trees for insect life that then would go on to feed other things, further up the food chain or down the food chain that we tend to be more into observing. Tony's a birder. I am a budding birder. I like lots of other things that eat bugs, bats, you name it. And so that oak trees, tend to support a lot of bug biomass,
Yes.
And then you pointed out that black cherry trees do the same.
I think oaks as a genera have the most, but as an individual tree, it's black cherry.
But then so then I find myself looking more at those trees when I'm birding, and then seeing lots of, let's say in the spring and the fall, a lot of warbors moving through and just totally going over willow oaks in Independence National Historic Park or something like that, and not spending much time in the plane trees. And so it's sort of, but I also, am I just not looking at the plane trees as much? And because I, in my head, know they don't have as many bugs.
Yeah, my personal experience would concur with you.
Oh, there you go.
That they tend to prefer oaks and cherries and other things. Although I have seen some really cool things, like I've seen cedar waxwings feeding in London plains and...
I was noticing this spring again that Baltimore Orioles seem to love to pick apart the seed balls of the London plane trees. So if you're spring bird watching around Philadelphia and you're standing next to a London plane tree, there's a snow of the fluffy seeds coming down on you. Look up, you might see an oriole.
And that'd be interesting to see if they're feeding on the seeds or picking apart for things in the seeds.
Yeah. And I think the other element of it, though, that I think is worth remembering when we talk about urban wildlife and whatnot is the historical and human choices that lead to the sort of biotic communities we have around us in cities. That when you think about, on the one hand, when you take most ecology classes, the first thing you learn about is the geology, right? You learn about what kind of rocks are underneath and like what geological processes led to the soil that's there, and then supports
Soil layers and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and supports like what kind of plant communities based on the geology and combined with the weather. And then in the city, though, you're dealing with artificial geology in a sense of concrete, asphalt, and what they degrade into. And then you're dealing with sort of carefully selected tree canopy. We hear
Yeah, there's not a
captive urban wildlife purring
yeah.
away.
There is not a piece of equipment or something that kicked on. My cat has jumped on my lap and wants to get on the table where we're recording.
I always like to point out those of us who know how strongly Tony and I feel about outdoor cats. Don't feel good about them.
No.
Tony adores cats. An example of that is Shamu, who he can't keep his hands off. It isn't. I would have just been like kick the cat off of me. Tony's got to snuggle for a minute.
Dude, and it's that
You
cat.
love cats. It's all good.
That cat's a living teddy bear.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like if stuffed animal came to life, it'd be that cat. You know.
But so we were on a big segue. So that's what the last episode was about. What spurred me to get in touch with Tony wasn't his adventure with the black bear, which we'll get to. But it's that I finally found a black rat snake in the city of Philadelphia. And so this is going to maybe be me monologuing for a little bit, but you guys ask questions and break in with your rat snake experiences. But, when you're a little kid... Go ahead.
For Brad's sake, Billy and I are obsessed within the city limits of Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
Right? So, like, we want to see things within our city limits, like, more than anything else. Now, we are in a massive metropolitan area, and in a lot of ways, cities are defined throughout the world. Seeing a black rat snake in, like...
Yadin.
Would still... Or even, like, much for, 30 miles from here in, like, Salem County, New Jersey, people would still think of that as Philadelphia.
Oh, Salem is like a land of black rat snakes, but yeah.
Yeah, you go over Jersey, like I was telling you, because, like I said, we run beagles in the spring, and the baby rabbits, and there's rat snakes everywhere. Not my favorite snake, but I like the rabbits, but I appreciate them.
Yeah, but however arbitrarily we choose our hunting grounds, for Tony and I, a lot of that is within the city of Philadelphia, and I'm someone who likes going out into the woods and marshes, mountains, forests, whatever, and looking for reptiles and amphibians. People go birding, we call it herping.
Herping, yeah. Yep.
And so,
a lot of friends at herp. Yep.
There you go.
It ain't easy.
Herping ain't easy.
Herping ain't easy.
And I love finding black rat snakes. They have personality. Yep. They're relatively easy to pick up.
Yep.
They're semi-arboreal, so...
they look meaner than they are.
They look meaner than they are, but it's fun to contrast them with black racers that people sometimes lump together because they look kind of similar as just black snakes. But black racers are very much not... Well, they get there a little bit. They're mostly on the ground. They're not so arboreal. They're not so good at climbing. So a black rat snake... you can often pick it up and once it realizes you're not trying to eat it, will calm down a bit. A racer does not want to be off the ground. It will keep chewing on you and trying to draw as much blood as possible until you put it down. It's a different experience.
Our real good buddy Mike McGraw is a herpetologist by trade, and he works with pine snakes, which are notoriously docile. They make a lot of noise,
right? But they don't bite much.
And so I go out with him, and he had me pick up a whole lot of pine snakes, no problem. Flip a board as a racer, and I was like, "Can I pick this one up?" And he was like, "Absolutely!"
He set you up.
And it's like, and to him, it's like, yeah, you can pick it up, but it's like it'll bite you, but it's no big deal. So,
yeah.
But I like black rat snakes because the head has that python type shape,
A little more of a triangular shape to it,
yeah,
or arrowhead kind of shape to it, and their eyes bug out a little bit, which can give them a little bit of a quizzical look. Racers have like a scale above their eye that gives them like an angry eyebrow look. So this is very much anthropomorphism. We're judging by how the scales are of a snake. But in any case, I love black rat snakes. I love finding them wherever I am. And if you'd asked me 6 years ago, I would have said there are basically no black rat snakes in the city limits of Philadelphia. I would have said they don't deal well with crossing roads. Adult black rat snakes actually use a large amount of territory. They cover a lot of ground.
All those rabbits they gotta eat.
Well, excuse me. They'll eat anything warm-blooded that's small enough. So they'll eat birds. When they're babies, they'll probably eat lizards and frogs and stuff too. But mostly they're eating birds or mammals of the right size for them. So that might mean when they're babies, it might be baby mice. If you get a 7-footer adult, then yeah, they're taking down squirrels and chipmunks and rabbits and stuff, and whatever birds they can grab. And so they're so the combination of kind of the territory they need, and just that they're one of their basic fear reactions is to freeze up, and like they have this like kind of kinked look, like they're trying to like blend in with leaves on the forest floor. But if you do that on the road, you're dead. So they're terrible at crossing roads. And so what I said, yeah, they might, maybe wash over from Palmyra Cove, in like a natural area in Jersey or something, but they're not living in Philadelphia. And then I was in the Schuylkill Center looking for milk snakes, which are there for a program I was doing. And there's a power line cut that's sort of in the back of the Schuylkill Center grounds. And I saw a black rat snake scoot away into some piles of stone I couldn't get into. And it just sort of blew my mind. I was like, wait a second. And then I started talking to old timers who were like, oh yeah, we see him down by this wall over there, and I had always discounted it. And then I started getting more and more reports. And so I think that part of this is also a feature of our current era where it's really easy for people to take pictures with their phones and share them.
I saw a lot with the bear, but go ahead.
Yeah. So all of a sudden someone who 10 years ago had been like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He saw a big garter snake and he's magnifying it in his brain, which happens. But now you can see people's pictures of like, no, it's a rat snake, and they'll show it to you on their phone, and you can't argue with that. And then I've heard reports from Bartram's Garden, and then reports popping up, especially on the Delaware waterfront. So more and more I started dedicating myself to like going on trips to find rat snakes. I counted it, and so starting in like late summer 2014, I went on, at least that I had written down, 39 trips to try to find rat snakes, and this includes like, we'll call them like family picnics or walks when like, it's like, where should we go for a picnic? And I'm like, well, we should go to Glen Ford on the Delaware because I just got a rat snake report up there, and so been counting those, getting out there. On my 39th trip, I was at Pennypack in the Delaware, which is a place where I had first learned about them because they were in the prison garden, which is right next to Pennypack in the Delaware. And then our good friend John Jensen, who's a land stewardship guy with Riverfront North. Trip number 39, I just sort of basically walked into the woods at Pennypack in the Delaware, and like 3 steps into the woods, there was one stretched out, and I sort of picked it up, and then like half an hour later, I found another one. It was just like for the right morning. And the trip before, I had shown up with Magnolia, my 7-year-old. I had my Gilda, who at that point was like 3 months old. Slung on my chest, and I saw John Jensen, and he was like, oh, you're here at the right time, I just saw 2 of them. And I was like, awesome. And then we spent 2.5 hours not finding anything and pissing off my daughter. And then, so in this trip, I was like just steps into the woods, ran into one. And so I texted John, I was like, I don't know how to feel. Since 2014, I've been structuring my outings around Philadelphia with this goal in mind, and I'm not quite sure. What do I do now? You can look for other things. Maybe I'll look for try to find more red salamanders around Philadelphia or something.
I always say I'm under the black construction barriers for erosion.
Yeah, and you can find stuff under there.
Yeah, and I see them all spring, all the time. This time of year.
Red salamanders?
No, the black rat snakes.
Ah, okay.
You pick up. I love picking up things, and it's just see the construction black. You pick them up, and they're always coiled under there.
There you go.
But we need to place a couple in strategic spots. And
well, now I found my Philadelphia black rat snake.
Yep, there we go.
And I have a friend who was finding them just basically, I won't tell you where, it's kind of secret kind of thing, but just over the line in a surrounding county. And I was like, Dave, this is awesome, but it doesn't quite count. And then I wanted to find one myself, and I need to give proper thanks to McGraw, who found a pretty young one along the Delaware River, and honestly called me and then sat there watching it until I could drive out and see
cool.
it.
What's the deal with racers in Philly?
Racers pop up also. John Jensen has a picture of one from Pennypack in the Delaware also.
No, have you seen Racer in Philly?
I have not.
But it's not a why. Why is that not a white whale? Like
I just love rat snakes in a way I don't love racers.
Yeah.
I like racers. I'll be happy to see one, but I don't know if I'm going to launch like a series of trips to find them. And also, like frankly, I could see them in a lot of the places I was looking for rats. If they're racers, they should be in racers like maybe like slightly more open country.
Was that a racer or was that a?
The picture you showed me was a rat snake for sure.
Well, okay.
The racers. So I know I know they're around the Pennypack, or at least the Delaware waterfront up there. I'm not sure if they go up the Pennypack or just like along the river. And then I know that they're near FDR Park. Like people have seen them down around there. So that's in clear other side of the city. Mm-hmm. But and someone who saw one there saw a baby, which years ago. But a baby means they're breeding. They're like babies don't wander long distances. The adults do. And then George, this is his name George. The fellow at Cobb's Creek.
Yeah, George Ambrose.
He claims he saw a black racer years ago in Cobb's Creek. Which, frankly, when you look at the map, if they're around FDR Park in South Philly, you look at how the train tracks go and everything, that's like in the creek corridors. It's not is reasonable to see those connecting, And I know that there are, I don't know if they're at Hines. The Hines Wildlife Refuge in Tennecomm near the airport.
Well, they're Cobbs. They should be at Hines and vice versa.
I know. But racers are an obvious creature in a way. Like, so are rat snakes, but like they're diurnal. They're out during the daytime, and they're active. So and they're easy to find under stuff. Rat snakes are generally harder to find under boards and stuff than racers. And so if you're out flipping boards and there are racers around, you will find racers. In any case, so it got me thinking also just about this overall topic of these quests. Like, I like to point out that in 2005, or was it 2004, I found a milk snake, which is another. So rat snakes can get big. Rat snakes can get up to, like, record size, like around 8 feet. Average size, I think, like 4 to 6 feet. And then big ones, I do catch big ones that are in the 6 to 7 foot range. I don't know, a lot of fun. And the milk snakes are more like 3 foot snakes, and a lot of differences. I won't get into the differences so much, but I found a milk snake in Wissahickon in like 2005, the spring, and I thought I would find more because I hadn't really looked that hard. And then I just kept looking and going back and looking around Northwest Philadelphia, and didn't find another one for 10 years.
Wow.
I was out like on a hike on my birthday with Magnolia and Gigi, and like I fell under a rock and I was like dancing around. But so that was like quest number 1, and then quest number 2 is rat snakes. And so, like, do you ever? I mean, you with the birding, is there stuff? We'll get to the bears, but is there stuff that you like wanted to find in your yard that even though you saw it out like in other places, you really wanted to get a sight of it, like in your limits or in your neighborhood?
That's like my one list I really care about is my Philadelphia list. So, unfortunately, with
what have you seen on your list
in Philly? My list is like,
or what do you still have to see that?
I mean, there's quite a bit. I mean, the list for Philly is like 320 some birds.
That's the total seen or total you've seen?
Total ever seen in Philadelphia on record is like 315 species. On eBird, I'm 6th for Philadelphia with 265, I think. So there's still quite a few. But some of that stuff is something that's shown up once.
Right.
Like, or you only get a record of it every year, so it's a matter of luck. And the downside of birding is also the upside, in that the upside is that there's tons of birders, and generally if something will show up and it'll get reported and I'll go follow up on it. The downside is that it doesn't leave that many opportunities for me just to happen upon things myself.
Yep.
And one of those was like I got my own blue grosbeak. I didn't follow up on a report. I was just out birding with Dan, and we were.
That's a fantastic looking little bird. So
it was a female or immature, but still.
Okay.
I mean, they're now probably breeding in Philly. It looks like they've maybe another product of global warming. They're a southern species moving up, but
these are the males are like what do you call it, iridescent or like bright?
Yeah.
They're deep blue, and grosbeak. I mean, cardinals are grosbeaks. They have big, I guess, crushing beaks.
to be really nerdy about the taxonomy, grosbeaks are cardinals.
Well, okay.
These ones are the things. Evening grosbeaks are a finch, and in this country, and pine grosbeaks are a finch, and everything else named a grosbeak in
Rosy groupers.
is rose-breasted grosbeak, black-headed grosbeak, and blue grosbeak are actually cardinals.
Oh, take that.
So was indigo bunting, which is it looks like a mini blue
I
grosbeak.
understand the scarlet tanagers are now.
The tanagers are what we call tanagers in North America are all cardinals,
Well,
and as well as the dick thistle, which is it looks like kind
it's
of
a
like
western grassland bird.
it's a tall grass prairie specialist.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. So, but blue grosbeak's very vivid bluebird with a freakishly large beak. Looks like almost like a not hooked, but almost like a parrot's beak got grafted onto a small bird.
So that was that was exciting, and I followed up on a white winged tern, which is only like the 4th or 5th record for North America. I mean, and I found Townsend's warbler.
That's the one that sort of showed up at the
center.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have lots more still. But for me personally, a thing I've always wanted to see in the city limits of Philadelphia was a black bear.
And you talked about this in early episodes, where you talked about like wanting to buy a place next to railroad tracks because you felt like that would be the best opportunity to see a black bear using railroad tracks as a corridor.
Well, that was before I married a lawyer who upped my prospects for type of home I could afford, or just married in general, right? If
You
I'm-
don't have to be woken up by trains every night, is what you're saying.
My
now.
single Tony version of like house would be like buying like a $80,000 house in West Philly next to railroad tracks or something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm married, so
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, and I married someone who makes a bit more money than I do. So instead of buying a house next to railroad tracks, I bought a house next to 1,900 acres of forest.
Right.
And
Another sort of corridor.
yeah, and we're the third house in from a stream, which is a corridor. Like
Can't beat it in Philadelphia. Yep.
not the main
Yep.
branch of the Wissahickon, but a tributary of, and this bear very likely followed that, and and this is how we met Brad. So this is really Brad's story because I basically just showed up.
Well, we
At
can
the end.
talk generally about bears, and like it seems
Right,
like
this is
last year another one showed up.
What's going on is this time of year, every year, bears breed in June. That's their rut mating season, and a sow will have her cubs with her for 2 years. So her second June is when she kicks her cubs away. It's time for them to move on. She will rebreed. So those bears have to go find their own territory. And that was a young male. And what they do is they have to get out of the territory of another larger male, especially if his mother's getting ready to breed, because the other boar coming in will kill her cub. And that triggers them to go into cycle. That's a whole nother thing. But so he was just roaming. He was roaming and looking for his own. And just like corridors, like train tracks, like you were saying, is you have, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill River. I mean, that they hit it. This is the second time it's happened in 3 years. And it's going to happen more, but that's kind of...
So we didn't introduce you fully. Who are you that you should know so much about bears?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My name's Brad Gates. I grew up in this area since I was 2 years old, on this street that we're doing the podcast from, believe it or not.
He lives on the next block over.
So I grew up in this area. I love wild places and wild critters. And as a little kid, I would just come home from school, Shawmont, right down the road here, and I would run these rivers and woods and just catch snakes and, whatever I could find. Growing up, I was so fascinated with wildlife. I went to Penn State and I have a degree in wildlife fisheries biology. So basically in this area, I do a lot of volunteers type stuff. I'm a co-founder of Delaware Valley Wildlife Management. I'm on the board of the Deer Committee for Friends of Wissahickon. And basically what I do with the Game Commission, I'm volunteer, and there's any nuisance problems with larger animals and they're either busy or there's a deer stuck on the fence or something.
Which is a kind of a gruesome situation.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Where they
That's
try
not-
to hot jump a fence, but something
yeah,
sharp catches them on top.
and there's a lot of fences here, a lot of deer, but whatnot. But I get called in on a volunteer basis to give the guys a hand when there's an issue that they just need some extra eyes, ears, feet, legs, hands, whatever.
So I heard about this bear shows up in East Falls, which is Philadelphia is kind of shaped like a Y.
But wait, last year when the bear showed up, weren't you out of town or something?
It was 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, and I was doing the World Series of Birding.
Right.
I was doing the World Series of Birding, and
He was bathing down in front of Valley Green.
Yeah.
Right. It was your
which
stomping
is
grounds,
right-
and you weren't here.
and that's when I was still stationed at this park. Now I'm in a different park. I'm still work for the whole park system, but my office is no longer in this park. It's in the other Cops Creek Park. 2 years ago, I was in this park, but I was away.
Yeah.
The bear shows up, and Jerry Check, Officer Check, who we had on the podcast before, he did a quick one with the eagle. Remember we told the whole story about the eagle?
Yeah, you recorded them while you were driving.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
good.
we're gonna actually have him in one of these days. So he calls me to
Good friend of mine.
I like
Yeah.
them, yeah.
he called me and was like, he wanted to use our Gator, our all-wheel drive utility vehicle. It always makes me angry. People are like, "Oh, Tony, I saw you in that golf cart." I'm like, "It's not a golf cart. The Special Forces fly these things in and use them. It's a real burly vehicle." He wanted to go, look for the Gator, and so when this happened, I was like, "Well, I'm coming back up and I'm grabbing the Gator from Wissahickon, and we're gonna go find it." And I kept texting Jerry. He didn't respond, and I was like, "Oh, he must be really busy." And so I came up and I just went.
He wasn't, but go ahead.
Well, he was on vacation. turns
Exactly.
out. So
That's busy.
So, right, yeah, he was.
That's how
he
I
was,
got involved,
Yeah.
but go
Well, in my head, I thought he was busy. He probably would have responded and been like, "Get the Gator," but he was, he was not there. His phone was off or whatever. So I'm up there. We'll see the first day in East Falls, and they tried.
This is the recent bear.
Yeah, this is the recent bear.
Yeah.
The-
And so the Facebook accounts, etc., for our worlds are blowing up because
Yeah.
everybody's going crazy about this.
And I wasn't in a position to come up and help look or anything. And at that point, it wasn't even in the park yet. It was just on train tracks in East
Yeah.
Falls. And so Philadelphia's shaped like a Y, and one of the parts of the Y, the top, the Y is north, and the bottom of the Y is south, and so there is a portion of the Y that's the northwest section. That's the section we're in. It's the most suburban, even though it's in the city. It's single houses and a massive park and a big piece of private nature, a nature center and canals. It's a great place,
Yeah.
But this is the bottom of that part. So the bear had to make it quite a ways through, at least like 8 miles through the city.
Yeah.
And it probably ran out of woods, and then was seen and trying to get it.
He was just searching for a home.
Yeah. And I didn't go that day. The next day, the bear shows up on my street. And I actually had business in the Wissahickon that day, so I'm like, I'm coming back. So I hop in an Uber and I come home, and I grab my gear, my bear spray, the whole nine. Mostly because people, I didn't expect to actually deploy the bear spray, but people are going to.
If you've got bear spray, bring it.
Yeah.
I actually, believe it
how
or
often
not,
do you get to actually have it on you when there's a bear?
If you
You
saw
know-
the news clip where the bear stood up and I jumped in the woods to stop the bear from going towards Ridge Avenue, if you look at my left hand, I had bear spray. I was crazy, but not 100% crazy.
believe it or not, I actually keep bear spray in my bag usually. Because I work in a place where there's feral dogs sometimes,
That's true.
and
That's
with
true.
little children.
No, I've been jumped by pit bulls in
Yeah.
Mount Moriah Cemetery, which is right near there.
Yeah, and I may have to defend a fourth grader from a rogue Rottweiler. It's not. I mean, I've been
not
in
uncommon.
It is
I've had
entirely
fourth
plausible.
graders in the
Yeah.
park with a loose Rottweiler before. Literally, that happened.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
So, and nothing against Rottweilers. I love them, but it's not like
don't want them attacking
it's not a Jack
fourth
Russell
graders.
Terrier that I
Yeah.
can just kick off. So anyway, so I went out and I noticed that the helicopters were in one area.
So these news
so, yeah,
helicopters? News helicopters?
news helicopters, and
Two of them. Yep.
But the bear was resighted at the apartment complex on Henry Avenue, which abuts the park. And by trick of the way the park works, my street works, I actually can take a trail right from my house to that back of the apartment center. So I figured good chance the bear was back there. But apparently it wasn't. So what happened was the stream goes behind that complex, past my house. So the bear must have followed that up. And so there's literally a sighting on my street. Depending on which way the bear took, it could have actually walked on my sidewalk. And so but then I see on Twitter that the bear had, because I actually was following Philly Bear on Twitter, and the bear, they said they hit it with a dart. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to get to see the bear now. So I went and dropped the stuff off I had to do with the Wissahickon.
But that hadn't happened yet.
Well, it was I guess erroneously reported on Twitter, and then so we there was my buddy Dan, who we always talk about, was invited to come tonight, declined. We'll get him on the podcast eventually. We came back.
Which Dan?
Efferson.
Oh yeah, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah. So he lived very close. He said he was tired from doing yard work. So, but I'd love to have him over. He was an opportunity. He was actually there for this, to have him on the podcast.
He was with us when we were recording that Peregrine Falcon episode, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah, he's very reserved.
You hear him in the background asking people if they want to look at the Falcons through the scope. That's as much as he knows on the podcast. Yeah.
But he's not here so we can embarrass him. He's just the nicest human being in the world.
He's a really nice guy. Yeah.
Very handsome and so quiet that he deprives ladies of his company. And we need to, so any single ladies in Philadelphia want a very handsome
a guy who knows his plants cold.
Yeah, he's.
But in any case.
So anyway,
you and Dan.
But looking at Twitter and news footage, I figure out where the bear is, and it was
the choppers didn't give it away.
Well, I couldn't pinpoint because they weren't right above there.
No, I know.
They weren't. So I figured I had an idea where it was. So I knew where I was. Had to be on a certain road, and it happened to be next to this retirement community. So it has to be there. So we drove down there, and I'm in my park gear, and I'm texting Jared like, I'm on site. Do you need the gator? Do you need anything else? What do you need? And
no answer.
So we're just gonna watch this unfold, and I don't want to approach the officers and interject myself, but I keep seeing this guy walking back and forth. He looks like he's part of the operation. He wasn't in uniform. Had the same binocular harness that I had on. Koyu, very cool company. And I'm like,
instant connection.
This guy knows what's up. But I didn't get a chance to talk to him until basically everything was winding down, and a need never arose from where I couldn't communicate. Although you probably could have used the gator to get the bear to the truck because it was when you finally got it. But anyway, there's no need for me. I just an observer. But after it's all said and done, I meet Brad, realized he's my neighbor. He was involved with the whole thing. And I'm like, we got to get you on the podcast. So you were involved in the whole thing. So why don't you tell the story?
Did you have that selfie of yourself by the truck with the bear?
I got a selfie with the bear in the once it was sedated.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I never got to see the bear unrestrained.
Okay.
Walking freely. So how do you count it to see a bear in Philadelphia or not? I mean, I saw a bear in Philadelphia, but I didn't see it walking.
It's the question of a densely.
He was just sleeping. When you saw him, he was sleeping.
Yeah, but it's hard to be the first one with your eyes on something, especially a big and obvious creature like a bear. Like, it isn't like you're going to stumble upon. It's unlikely that you're going to stumble upon a bear anywhere in Philadelphia and be the first person in Philadelphia who saw it.
Yeah,
and then anyone who sees a bear in Philadelphia is going to be like taking a picture of their phone and like lighting up the news with it.
But I think I'm the first person to put it in iNaturalist.
That might be the case.
Although Chrissy from my colleague at Wissahickon put a pile of its crap on iNaturalist. I mean, it was a big mound of crap full of black cherry pits.
Wow, that's what I would be eating right now.
Yeah. So
that or raccoon.
All right, so let's talk about how you fit into all this.
Okay, so what happened is, like I said, I help out with some large animal problems. But anyway, I came home from work, and it was a Thursday afternoon. Choppers are hovering. I don't know what's going on. I'm exhausted. It's about 2:30. I got home early. I said, I'm going to lay down and watch some TV. So my daughter texted me and said, Dad, there's a bear running around. My daughter, Nicole, there's a bear running around the neighborhood. Go check on the chickens and the dogs. So I start laughing. So now I know what's going on. I called Jerry on the phone, Jerry Check. I said, Jerry, will you guys please catch the bear? I'm trying to take a nap. That's how. And he starts laughing. He goes, I'm on the beach in Maryland. I'm like, wait. I said, who's running this whole operation? He goes, there's another officer, Tyler, from up north. I'm not sure which county. I said, listen. I said, do you want me to get the dogs and go over and end this thing and catch this bear? He goes, would you please go over there and help? And he goes, I'm going to call Tyler. Another sidelight of mine is I have tracking dogs. I have a Dachshund and I have a Bloodhound. And I can pretty much get them to track deer, raccoon, or whatever. You
There's
show them the
something
scent.
adorable about the idea of the dachshund.
The funny thing is, he's the most vicious out of all my dogs, and he's about 16 pounds, and he would have went toe to toe. So I drove over there. They let me in the barricades. Tyler walks over. He says, "Listen, Brad, don't put the dogs out." And I agreed. Too many people,
I was there and I was like, they need dogs.
They were in the back of my truck. Did you see? They were in the back of my truck.
But I was like, if there was dogs, they would have a spare treat and found in a
I had them with the GPS collars. I was ready to go, but we just decided wrong time and place and too many people. It's just louder than it is unsafe or hurt the bear. It just sounds worse. Yeah. But anyway, so he goes, "This thing is over. I got a trap coming. I'm going to set it in the woods." I said, "Listen," I said, "give me a half hour." He goes, "What?" I said, "Just give me a half hour." I said, "If that bear's in that woodlot, I'll either know he's in a woodlot or I'm going to find him." So he kind of looked at me. So he goes, "Okay." So I know the terrain back there. There's a couple holes in the fence that go from the woodlot to the senior field. No tracks. Deer were all scared out of the woodlot. No bear. Checked some of the yards. No bear. I said, "Okay, he's in here." So I just took my time with my binoculars and my QU little fancy thing and just started pretending I was just still hunting and, stalking and glassing and whatnot. And I saw some grapevines just bowed over, and I figure he's going to be hot and scared and trying to hide. And I'm kind of looking in there, and it's dark and black in there, but I see something that looks even more black. Yeah. So I pull the binoculars up, and he picks his head up and looks at me. I'm like, "I got you." So I called Tyler. I said, "Tyler, get up here with the tranq gun." I said, try to leave the people behind, which was impossible. You saw that. So he comes down. We come into the woods. We could not get a clear shot with the tranq gun. We're moving around trying to find a hole. He gets up. He runs. He runs up, runs across Cathedral Road behind Cathedral Village, the old age home, and he hits the chain link fence. And I've never seen a bear. Well, other people said he never even slowed down. He hit that 10-foot fence, went up and over that quick. We jump in the car. We head down there. Now you got to remember, I grew up in this area neighborhood. I know every square inch of the woods, everywhere, anyway. I know every hole in the fence. So I turned around. I said, "Everybody, just stay here. Just leave me alone. Have your phone ready. I'll find a bear." I jumped the fence, go down the retention basin. It was a retention basin, so there's a water line with the creek. So I just hit it, paralleled it, found his tracks, 3 holes in the upper fence, found he went through the 3rd hole. As I crest over, there's 2 guys down on the bottom road that were working at Cathedral Village. They saw the bear jump the fence. They drove their truck around. They're sitting there. I look at them. I pull my binoculars up. The bear's laying in the creek, curled up sleeping, drinking water. He's scared and tired. So I called Tyler. Tyler comes back around, comes down the road. That's when we get the first.
Shot.
Yeah, we get the first dart in him. And that's where it gets Western. It takes 15 minutes for a tranquilizer to work on an animal. And usually when an animal's, the adrenaline's flowing like that, it takes longer. They're just so hepped up and just wired. So we're sitting there. I saw the bushes move. Tyler's here. We're watching. It's kind of dark and thick. You can't see real well. We wait 15 minutes. We go down there. He's gone. He's not there. We're like, "Where'd he go?" So we look for an hour. Can't find him. He's tranquilized, so he's just sleeping somewhere. We can't find him. So he either A, got up around me, went back in that retention basin, or there was a sewer line. He went in the sewer line, turned left, and came out because we got back out on Manitowana.
When you say it's a sewer line,
A
there's
big
storm
concrete.
sewer outfalls.
It was storm drains,
right?
storm
Picture
lines.
this,
Yeah.
if you're around a creek in Philadelphia, or the river in Philadelphia, you'll see these giant culverts that empty out.
Exactly what it is. So he either went in there and all of those pipes go up underneath Cathedral Village. And I looked at Tyler. He goes, "There's nothing we can do." He's just going to sleep, wake up, and come out. Yeah. So Tyler's doing a closing interview with the TV stations. Okay. I look up Manitowana. I'm standing there. That's kind of on the road that I met you, and you and I started talking. I look up, and some girl's frantically pointing in a field. So that's when I blew by everybody, ran up the hill. Tyler stops the interview, follows me. We run up, and that's the part of the news where you see the bear stay in the field. I run in, and just because I wanted to cut him off so he didn't go towards Ridge Avenue.
Yeah.
So
there's a thoroughfare.
Yeah, we're talking. This is a this part of Philadelphia is mind blowing because you're talking about creeks and hollows and woods, but it's still Philadelphia.
It's surrounded by relatively closely packed in single family homes and apartment complexes.
And
And
a
Bridge Avenue is a thoroughfare with
business district.
businesses. Basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, as we're doing all this, I'm looking up and seeing people up on their balconies and out their windows watching us,
right.
and
So-
you know,
And there's a mall right there too. Like,
So when you think about getting also from point A to point B, you might be going through backyards, fences, more streets, another set of backyards. So it's like so it isn't so simple to follow a bear in a straight line.
right,
Yeah.
right. And my advantage was I kind of tend to know how animals want to move and maneuver and their habits, and I know the woods. So and I knew, he's not, and he does it. It's amazing to me how animals can navigate in woods they've never been in. He's never been there in his life. How did he? It's amazing how he ran across the parking lot, jumped, walked across the stream. There's only 3 holes in the fence, and there was no wavering. He was not looking. He went through one of the holes, went to the creek, and crawled up. It seemed like he knew it, but they know he didn't. But he was just avoiding certain things and navigating certain places. It was really interesting.
It is, yeah.
It's very
I
interesting.
never heard anybody put it like that. How does this animal know where to go in woods it's never been in?
Sixth sense. I mean, we hear that in the outdoor woods.
Well, but-
Things you can't explain. I don't.
I'll put forth another hypothesis, which is if there's only so many holes in the fence, more than one animal is using those holes in the fence. And
Right.
I'm gonna guess the bear could be following other game trails or other.
Oh, absolutely. There were
set
there were
patterns
three.
of-
Yeah, there were
of
three
other animals
decisive.
that use
Yeah,
those
there were 3
routes.
decisive trails going up the hill that led him out of that retention basin in the
yeah.
hole. Yeah.
So from
Yeah.
a bear's perspective,
But what
he
I'm
sees
saying is,
sidewalks
he
everywhere.
knew. How did he? He ran between in an alleyway for 300-400 yards. Didn't veer left or right. Just headed straight for the woods. Just
Yeah.
if he went right, he was in trouble. Left, he was in big trouble. He just went straight, and there weren't
Smell.
any barriers that would prevent him from going any way. He just went the right way.
Well,
Interesting.
So the next step is he's tranquilized.
Okay, we got one dart in him. The girl saw him. I ran up, waved, and we turned the bear back around. And it's kind of a long, thin strip with a high fence up in the retention basin. I called Tyler. I said, Tyler, get up to the fence. Just sit down. He's got to come that way, which he did. He came down, and we got another dart in his hindquarter, and that pretty much did it. So.
And then they put him in a truck and they take him upstate somewhere?
Yeah, so he came up over and he was actually coming at me. I turned, it still takes time for him to fall asleep. So I'm sitting, I had my bear spray in my hand. I had no intention of using it. There's a distance I was allowing this to happen. He was about 15 feet, but he was staggering pretty good. He was looking back at me and him, and he just kind of curled up like a dog and just spread his arms out and just was snoring. So, and then we just, took him up to the big trap that you saw and put him in there, and we put Vaseline on his eyes because they don't blink much. So we kept checking his gums. He was healthy and heart, and he looked great. And actually, another thing that had surprised me, as much as he was running around for 5 days, he was healthy. Hide was great. He wasn't dehydrated. He wasn't emaciated. I mean, healthy, about 125-pound bear. But so we put him in the trap, did the interviews. The best part was watching the kids come up. We let. It was funny because we're sitting there, we're letting the kids, touch and pet and everything, and the drug's starting to wear off a little bit, and he's and we're like, well, we need to end this right now.
Is that like when I saw that transpire and I was allowed, I went up and took a photo with it myself. Is that like standard procedure to let the public see, or is that like?
I mean, there's nothing standard about it because it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
So I think with the
That's
news
standard procedure,
camera,
but it's not like I thought maybe.
If you're doing
I
a
thought
grizzly
maybe
bear
like-
out in
thought it'd be
Yellowstone,
like, no
I
one
would
could
say
look at it,
no.
but-
But it was such a neat thing, and we had got 2.5 darts in him, which one dart does about a 200-pound bear. So he's had twice the amount just because, like I said, the adrenaline. And when it finally, so he was out. I mean, we carried him up, and there was not a flinch or a movement. So
Where did they take him?
they took him up to I'm sorry, State Game Lands up on the Schuylkill, Berks County line near Hawk Mountain.
Was it
I go there all the
106?
What's that?
106?
That's what area I go looking for.
It's Schuylkill and Berks County. What's
Yeah.
the big one up
it's
there?
Basically, it's
I should have looked the number up. 250. Don't hold me to that.
I think
no, but it's
something.
Blue Mountain Ridge basically.
Yeah, that's where we took them.
So if you think of I don't know how well you know Pennsylvania, but if you think of
Yep.
in Pennsylvania, you got sort of the
Blue
little bit
Mountain
of
and the
coastal
Allegheny,
plain,
yep.
then you have Piedmont, kind of rolling hills and that kind of thing, and then there's a ridge line that's kind of like marks the beginning of the mountains, and it
Yep.
arcs around from like north, and then arcs west, southwest until it hits the Maryland
Virginia's,
line.
comes down. Yep, yep.
And so that's the Blue Ridge.
I mean, it's like,
Right where those mountains started, where
Right.
we let them go.
it's like a 200-mile long mountain. So,
Yeah.
and people, I put it on our social media and my personal Instagram, Facebook, and people I like and respect and I feel like should know better are like talk about relocating it. And I think people get too diehard about things like that bear is not going to have a good life. It was
in
only
Philadelphia.
there was a
No,
it's only
no,
1,900
no,
acres.
No.
It's 1,900 acres, and it's 1 million people visited a year.
No. Bear's home ranges are too big. He's too big. He was not a vicious, ferocious bear, but it's a bear.
Yeah.
It's a bear. You know.
This is a very densely populated area.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't, it wasn't even in Owassagan. I mean, it was only in Owassagan briefly. It was in dumpsters of apartment complexes.
Yep.
On Henry Avenue, which is essentially, Philly's an old city.
Yep.
We still have like highways that are at street level. In
Just
the
for
city.
safety for him and everyone above, he needed to go up into the big woods. I mean, that's.
No, I'm not.
And is he going to run into a few territories of other males? Sure, but he'll
Jockey
That would
around
happen in
and-
a natural setting. Every other
Yeah.
evicted bear faces that same reality.
Yep, they move around. Just the big bear, big males don't like to climb trees that much, so that little guy can get higher than the big bear. Then he goes away, he goes down. He knows I gotta get. There's a process that keeps everybody, mostly on the up and up in the bear world.
Plus, now I can go to Cabela's. You were saying that I have a bird list that I want to see in Philadelphia. You have a mammal list.
It's just all the outdoors stuff that I do in Philadelphia is I just get the biggest thrill of seeing animals. I've seen multiple mink. I've watched weasel hunting chipmunks for an hour. I mean, and you're sitting there, you're thinking, how many million people are in the Philadelphia area? I'm the only one observing this right now. I just think that's cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been watching coyotes.
Where do you see the weasels?
Anywhere along the Wissahickon Creek.
Okay.
But I was trying to pull a video up. I know there's a mink den, and I watch a mink. He comes out. I watch him all the time. He
Have
is
you ever
so
seen
cool.
a star-nosed mole in?
I've seen them dead. I've seen a
Seen
bunch of
them
them
dead?
dead.
No.
Where do you see them dead? Like around the Greek?
Heinz.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I've definitely seen them at Heinz. I've seen
I
them.
mean, it's a
Penny Pack,
it lives
definitely
under the
Penny
ground.
Pack.
It's
Yep, no,
not
yeah,
walking
yeah,
around.
yeah,
But it's
star-nosed,
one of the
yep.
weirdest looking creatures that we have in
I know if
Philadelphia.
they are. Yep.
They have like a star-shaped set of, what do you call them? Like they look
Feelers or
Protuberance?
I don't know what the
They look like
scientific.
tentacles.
Yeah.
It looks like you got a starfish attached to the nose of a mole. It's just a crazy looking thing.
Yeah, grubs and worms. They
But
eat, yep.
but mink are I've seen minks in like Chester County, but not here in
Yep.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
I've never seen a mink like south of Canada. I've seen them in Canada, and I've seen them in I've seen them in Alaska.
I was looking for spotted turtles, and I was in a marsh, and I just saw the mink. I heard something moving, and I was like, "It's not a snake. It's not a turtle. What the hell is it?" And then like I see it, and it just took a minute to register because I wasn't expecting it. I was like, "It's a mink. Holy cow!"
Well, what are your wants? What are
What
some
do you
big
still want to
wants?
see?
Just knocked off the list a few years back, and I know they're here and are common. Flying squirrels.
Oh, I had a fun.
Yeah, I was actually in a deer stand, and it was dark, and I'm sitting there, and something hit the tree right above my head. I'm like, wow. So I took the flashlight out, and there he was, just looking at me. I thought that was really cool.
A few years ago, I baited a tree with peanut butter for a few weeks in Cobb's Creek. And then finally we came back at night and were able to see a flying squirrel there.
Yeah,
They should be everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're very common, but
yeah,
they're just
but
so
they're
nocturnal.
You
Yeah.
can hear them at night a lot. Most people probably just, if you hear what it sounds like a bird at night, it's pretty. Most likely it's a flying squirrel.
Yeah. But
And
tell
my-
people about it and no one believes that they're even here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, if it sounds like I'm explaining something to you that you already know, it's because I'm talking to the listeners and not you.
But yeah,
Not taking
flying
it personal.
squirrels are extremely abundant. Like
Yeah.
they're just
They're cool.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they glide. They got
Yeah.
they're not wings. There's a special term for the membrane
And they
that I
got
forget. But they
Their eyes a little bigger than their, disproportionate to their head. They're just
they're
they're
adorable
sharp. Cool.
also.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I dated like environmental. Well, I dated a few environmental activists in my day, but I dated someone who was a tree sitter out in Oregon, and
they have a different species there, don't they?
I think there's a northern.
Yeah, it's
Is it-
more of a coniferous
Yeah,
specialist. Yeah.
and she said that they would like nestle into her neck, like while you're sitting on the tree stand. But what are things outstanding on your list that you want to see in Philadelphia?
Well, the bear was icing on the cake.
Yeah.
I didn't see the one that was here 2 years ago. I never thought I would see that, but that was great. I've seen fox.
Gray fox.
I did see one gray. And this
Really?
is probably 18, 20 years ago.
But this was a debate among Philly
Yeah.
natural
Yep.
center circles
Yep.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
100%. I saw it in the center, the nature center.
Okay.
He's straight to the Schuylkill Center.
Schuylkill
So the
Center.
Schuylkill Center is the largest
Yep.
piece of privately owned land in Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah, and it's 2 blocks from my house.
It makes it. It's like so. It's wooded, some ponds, nature center. Yeah.
And what made me know it was the gray was I saw it long enough that it wasn't a dark phase red or whatnot.
Yeah.
But he went up a tree. It was he was way up, because they do tend
Yeah,
to climb.
they climb, yeah.
Yep. And I watched. I wish I didn't have a camera. Back then we didn't have phones, but
Yeah.
I saw one. That's all.
So many times of people, when they say they see gray squirrel, gray fox, say the same thing, that it's one of the most beautiful animals they've ever seen.
They're gorgeous.
Oh, there, yeah.
I saw one dead on the
The
road.
silvery slate
in
gray.
Atlanta, and even then it was beautiful.
It's,
Yeah.
it's technically a separate species, but if you want to see an identical animal to a gray fox, you go to the Channel Islands, and it's very easy to. You go to Santa Cruz Island.
Oh, but
take
they're
a fi-
endangered out there.
Yeah.
Because it's, yeah.
But apparently it's if you-
Introduced, right?
No.
No.
No, that's not.
There's a endemic species of gray fox that lives on Santa Cruz Island.
But it has
and-
no fear of people.
Yeah, and so people
Right.
and
Yeah.
you just
I did listen to a podcast about those.
but that was a very crazy. I think they were having a problem where DDT killed off the
bird, yeah.
the bald eagles that lived in that area on the islands, and bald eagles are very territorial, and they kept out golden eagles, right? And so golden eagles colonized the islands in the absence of the bald eagles, and the golden eagles are hammering the
fox.
The fox.
That's fascinating.
Golden eagles are a much more
More aggressive bird than a bald eagle.
It's weird in terms
yeah.
of like they have like they like to attack bigger prey.
Yeah.
But in terms of like fighting each other,
Yep.
the bald will kick a golden's
Yeah,
ass.
yeah.
Apparently, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, you see the videos where a golden takes a wild sheep off the top of the mountain. It's a lamb or something, but still.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's weird. Like, a lot of people will say like, "Oh, bald eagles are scavengers," and mostly they don't take. But when you work in like places where there's bald eagles,
They're
and
they're such huge talons.
everything
Such huge bills. I mean, like
hates them. In the Canadian Arctic, I witnessed a bald eagle being at the same time, like not like over the course of field season. One individual bald eagle was being mobbed by a harrier, raven, parasitic
Everything.
jaeger,
Yeah.
like
well, we
all
saw,
at once.
Not quite that dramatic, but when we did that bicycle nature tour thing in the Tacony, we ended up at Pulaski Park on the Delaware, and sort of it was nice icing on the cake for people who were with us. But we saw a bald eagle coming over the Delaware, first being pursued by osprey, and then like once it got over into North Philly, red-tailed hawks picked it up and started harassing
kept,
it also. There's like two different species of birds right there trying to get the ball.
There's nothing like watching a bald eagle soar. It's one of my favorite birds.
The golden is, out here, to our listeners who live in the west of the U.S., they see golden eagles much more frequently than we see balds. Out here, we get all excited. I mean, I go every year. It's like a pilgrimage to sit on a mountain top in November to see the golden eagles migrate past because they're just so. And that's my bird in Philadelphia, golden eagle.
Golden eagle.
And one day Dan got one from Houston Meadow, and had I been living at this house then, I could have probably walked out back and had it fly over. Golden eagle in Philly is my number one.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I don't have anything else. For me, I'm like, honestly, for Philadelphia, I'm not sure if I have anything else. I mean, I'm going to keep trying to find black ground snakes.
Queen snake.
Queen snake.
Copperhead.
They're not. Neither is here.
Or are they? Just saying.
Queen snake. Copperhead. I'm darn sure they're not here. I would have heard about it. Queen snakes are something that people would confuse with garters and water snakes, possibly. So copperheads. People know what copperheads are. They're venomous. They're pit vipers. They look like they're pattern camouflage as well with dead leaves, and they're in. Probably historically they probably were here, but I don't know. But they're currently you'll see them around Valley Forge. You'll see them in Upper Bucks County. So surrounding counties around Philadelphia, but not right up against Philadelphia.
And they're one of the most beautifully marked snakes.
Gorgeous. And then queen snakes are probably in a lot of ways more interesting. They're a water snake, and this genus of water snakes that they're part of specializes in eating crayfish. And so queen snakes specialize not just crayfish, but eating freshly molted crayfish, so that so crayfish will molt their shells, and so for
like
a few
soft shell
hours,
crab,
yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. They're like a soft shell crab. They're vulnerable when they don't have their shell hasn't hardened yet, and so this is a snake that basically specializes in finding the freshly molted crayfish and eating those.
Wow.
And so you have to have a pretty healthy.
So it's a semi-aquatic snake. It must.
Yeah, it's like a water
snake. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And you'll see them under rocks next to creeks like you do water snakes. You'll see them basking in bushes next to creeks like water snakes do. But you need to have like a healthy creek with healthy crayfish population
right.
To support the queen snakes. And so I don't know if the creeks in Philadelphia have good crayfish population.
They used to when I was a kid. No, I don't know if that's changed.
Question. Yeah.
What about
because I used to go looking for them. Now I don't look for them now, but it could be the same. Because I used to fill fish tanks out with them. I thought that was cool.
Oh, there you go. I wouldn't be shocked to find a queen snake, but it would be really neat. You're right.
Yeah, we're gonna have Brad back because he's involved in urban deer management and urban hunting. I mean, he hunts.
It's something that you just don't think of happening in a city, and it's something that I would like to explore in a full episode just by itself.
Yep, I'd be glad to come back.
Thanks for listening to the Urban Wildlife Podcast. We want to thank Brad especially for coming on and joining us.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
If you enjoyed it too, then please rate us highly on your podcast listening app of choice. Please hit us up on Twitter at UrbanWildlifeCast and email us at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com.
Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.